What's up, guys? It's McNulty here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. As you can see, the votes have been counted, the votes are in, and we're going nature. Au natural. You guys have been true to your nature, whatever you want to say. This is what we've got. So it was a very close vote, I must say. And thank you guys so much for contributing to that. So here we are. We're going to be counting down the very best epic and rare heroes in the nature element for Empires and Puzzles of 2024. And I must say a massive thank you to Zartanist. He has updated this list. So this list is up to date as of the 10th of March, 2024. So we've got a couple of newies in here as well. So yeah, we're going to get going. We're going to try and pick out the best of the best. We do have 40, well, there's the most heroes actually in this epic category. I think that's probably why you guys picked it. But there's 45, I think, nature heroes in the 4 stars, and we've got about 37 of the 3 stars. So there are some insanely good heroes in here, some very, very usable heroes, but we only want the best of the best. So we're going to go ahead and we'll start with the epics. We'll go down the rows and we'll pick out the S tier heroes just to separate them from the rest of the bunch, the rest of this mishmash here. So starting off in the far left hand corner, we have my man Alfie. He is a great hero, actually. He is the 4-star version of Jekan or Jaquan, however you want to call him, from the elemental family. And he gives a pretty decent amount of damage to all enemies. And he gives these awkward, weird, negative effects, which you just don't know which one's coming to which hero. And it makes him a pretty decent hero. I'm going to go ahead and I'll give him an S. You know what? Just because of those annoying power gems on the board as well, combined with his special, I kind of wish he was running it fast. I mean, very fast would maybe be too much to ask, but he's still a pretty decent hero. Now, right next to him, we have my man Alma. Alma is an insanely good hero, the only elemental defense down 4-star hero in nature. So just for that fact alone, he's got to make the S tier. He gives elemental defense down to 3. He's got a pretty soft, not like neither here nor there hit, but he still gives the defense down, the elemental defense down, so you can pair him up with some other heroes and they can do some serious damage together. So I do like Alma as well as the costume for Alma S tier. Anton, who is next to him, is an interesting hero from the Magic family. He's got a weird effect where he gives quite a lot of damage. I think it's 250% damage to all, but it's only got a 60% chance to land. Now, it does do a lot of damage if it does land, plus he gets this extra damage effect. And if you've ever been hit by him at the first charge, it's pretty hectic. The second charge, he's probably one of the best revivers in the game at the second charge, but it just takes too long to get there. He's a bit of a finicky hero, but if you're patient, Anton can serve you well. So I'll give him an A+, not quite S tier. Brontis next to him is also a really good hero, especially at the second charge onwards. He gives a decent boost of mana to the nearby heroes. It's unfortunate that he's only healing himself and nearby, but he's really more about the mana effect. I was using him before I got Winifred, the bard hero, to be able to use costume Lady of the Lake in within 9 tiles, and it actually works if you do have Brontis and you put him next to her, so he can do some pretty cool magic. He is only a healer to 3. I would say for his niche he can be S tier with the right heroes paired up, but for the most part I'm going to give him an A. Not quite A+ in all situations, just because of the caster and nearby. Now, a hero that's right next to him, though, in Brynhild, shows us what that's all about. So she is probably the best example of a caster and nearby hero that works. She just gives this massive heal, and then she puts up the defense against special skills, and she gives the ailment immunity. on her ether talent, but she also gives immunity to buffs to the heroes on either side, or immunity to buff dispels, sorry, from the heroes on either side of her. So it makes her an extremely usable tank. If you do have Brinfield, don't overlook her. She is a bit squishy in terms of the stats, but if you second limit break and add emblems, you will not regret it. She's a fantastic hero. S tier all day long for Brynhild. Buddy, my man Buddy from the Christmas family, he's just getting he's getting really dated now. He does give a hit to 3 in defense down, but his stats have always been the wrong way round. He's just got far too much HP and far too little attack, and you can't even build him with the attack. Even with the attack up ether talent, it still doesn't make him usable. So you know what? If you don't have another defense down hero in nature, like one that we're going to see in a moment, then yeah, he can do in a pinch for defense down. But aside from that, he's definitely more of like a B grade hero at the moment with his current stats. It'd be nice if they released a costume for Buddy, actually. Cademan, on the other hand, is fantastic. He is an S tier hero from start to finish. He's just got so much versatility in all of his costumes. He's just a G, absolute S tier hero, one of the best 4-star heroes that we've got in the game. And now with the introduction of his Toon costume, it just makes him that much more staunch. And he's running at fast speed. He's just a great hero. Franz next to him, probably one of, I would say, the most sought after heroes in this element across the whole game, not just in the 4 stars, but also at the 5-star level, because he gives that that additional 50% damage for a whopping 6 turns. It just makes everything better. Even though he's running at very slow speed, he has so much versatility and so much usability that he is an S tier hero all day long. Gadieris, who's next to him, he does have his uses actually. In the events, in the costume, he gives a health boost to all, and he gives a 48% attack increase to all. So he can be used pretty nicely, even in the rush format as well. In the rush tournaments, the 4-star level, if you're sleeping on Gadieris, he is a good one to level up. I would say again, like for his niche, he can be S tier. For the most part, though, if you're just using him generally, he really isn't. But he shines in the events and also in the rush tournaments. Now, Gobbler, who's like the ugliest looking mofo in this entire game, you can do better than Gobbler. He does destroy all minions. The costume for Gobbler is terrible, aside from the stat boost. But the regular version for him, he destroys all minions from all enemies and gives a little bit of health. But if you do have the first costume for Gormek. If you got costume for Gormek, he does it a lot better than Gobbler does. So yeah, I'm not a fan of him. Hansel is a cool hero. He does have, again, he's got like a niche usability where he gives that that kind of mana. It's almost like a mindless attack effect. And he does it running at fast speed. I would say I'm going to give him an A for Hansel, just because he is a little bit dated in terms of the stats, but he's still a pretty good hero. And he can be quite versatile. If you go in like a 3-1-1 formation where your 1 is like a control or mana control hero, then that's your spot for Hansel on attack. I would say he's not very good on defense at all. Now let's move into the third row of heroes here. So third row, we have Jack O'Hare. I like the costume for Jack O'Hare a lot. He does do quite a bit of damage. I think it's 230%, and then the attack chains. But you know what? His stats, again, are quite dated. So I think just because of that, he won't quite make the cut. But he's still a pretty good hero. I've seen him used at the 5-star level as well. And he does the job. He does a pretty good job. But he's not as good as he once was. Kalo next to him is a beast, just an absolute beast. Nobody else has the same skill as him. He is just a monster in the rush format. So if you don't have a copy of Kalo, it's interesting that they put Franz and Kalo right above each other, because I think They are just two of the nature heroes that I feel like you cannot do without. And if you don't have them, you're always going to be hunting after them. So yeah, he's got to be an S tier hero, Kalo. Cash Wreck, yeah, just a waste of space. I mean, there was a stage where I thought Kasric could be pretty good, and he's quite tanky in terms of his stats. But the defense up against fire is just so niche. I know it works because he's a nature element hero, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Kasric. Lion String, he's a good new hero. I mean, one of the first new or one of the newer 4 stars that's been released into the game. In fact, just this last week. But he is our only dodge hero, and he's running at very fast speed. So yeah, I really do like him for that. I'm gonna give him an S tier as well. Little John. So what's Little John up to? He's got loads of different costumes, and at one point he was doing some pretty serious damage. I kind of like the dodge effect where it increases based on how much attack the enemy's dealing. So I think that's quite useful. But again, I can't put him in the S tier. There's just too many other good heroes in this group. So yeah, he's going to miss out on the cut just. But yeah, only just. Marcel is awesome. Marcel is an absolute beast. And like I was saying about Buddy earlier, this hero, if you don't have, if you don't have Marcel, you can use Buddy for defense down. But Marcel is just so much better, and he hits hard. 300% damage to the target and nearby, decent amount of defense down for a good amount of time, makes him an absolute S tier hero. Melendor is also an S tier hero. Disco Melendor is probably my favorite costume ever released into the game. I really love the way he looks, but it's not just about that because his skills are insane as well. Big heal, dispel, good ether talents across the board, really good defense up in the primary costume, and a good amount of attack up in the secondary one. He's just such a versatile hero, really, really good hero. Don't sleep on Melendor. Maliki. Fun sounding name to say. Maliki. She is a cool hero. I do like the effect that she gives. However, it is easily taken away, except for in the bloody battle, where I think that she can actually make a pretty viable tank. Those minions are just beefy enough. They're not really that beefy, but they're just beefy enough in the bloody battle to keep your team surviving a bit longer. And they give that increase in mana generation, which definitely helps all of the other allies on your team. Plus, she gets the Bulwark Ether talent with the costume version, which I think is an insanely good one. Because it just boosts her defense and survivability. Again, just a specialist in the bloody battle, I would say, Maliki. So yeah, S tier for that. And I mean there is some other usability, but yeah, she'll get it. She'll make the cut just. Mulgog next to her, I really like. He's got a pretty staunch hit. I think it's 260% damage to 3 target nearby. Plus, he gets 80% chance increased chance of 70% to do an extra 80% damage or something like that with his family bonus. So he hits really hard. The only downside about him is that poison damage where he does that healing effect based on the poison he gives doesn't kick in until his second tide, and it takes forever to get there. So yeah, I do like him. I think he is an S tier hero, but I think he could be that much better if they just moved the poison to the first charge. And then let's see, who else do we have here? Numbskull is just a waste of space. I know they've increased his speed. I think it was very slow. They've gone to slow, but he's still absolutely terrible. Orla, I would say the same thing about her. Just because her mechanic is based on the target having less than 50%, and then she does a boatload of damage, but she's at the Slayer's speed, and even with the increase in the mana generation, it doesn't make her that impactful. Peters is a good hero. Again, like I said before about somebody like Hansel, he's more of like a control hero where he can like just silence the target. So he is quite useful, but I think I prefer this guy, Tetek. I know I'm jumping a line here, But as far as a silencer, he gives additional poison damage as well, which Peters doesn't do. Peters is running at a faster speed, but Tetek has harder damage. He's got, he's got an extra turn on that silence as well. And I think that makes all the difference. So, you know what? I'll give them both an A, because they are pretty usable. And then next to him, Ptolemy from the season 4 June's Heroes is one of the best healers in the game. That boosted health and cleanse passive makes him just insanely usable. If you need a cleanse, don't hesitate to take Ptolemy. Even though it isn't part of his special skill per se, it does trigger a lot of the time. And that boosted health triggers as well. And he gives the ailment protection, so it increases the health. He's just a really versatile healer for a fat-looking, weird, bald guy. He's pretty good. Rally, on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I know he's one of our most recently released 4-star heroes. He gives like a really good health boost. And he gives, I think it's an attack up as well, but just, I think he's too slow for what he's doing to be competitive with some of the other great heroes in this group. Skittle Skull, I'm not even going to waste my time. Just a terrible hero. Hate her with all my heart. And then Villiers from the last row, I would say, is an S tier hero as well. He does something no other 4-star hero can do, where he gives the fiends that steal the buffs. It's like a 4-star version of Cardinal Richelieu. I mean, he doesn't hit quite as hard. And actually, on the forum page, it says that he gives the fiends to all enemies. And I was like, hang on, let me go and read my card in the game, because I swear he doesn't do that. But he doesn't. It's just to the target and nearby. But still, at the 4-star level, he can be a really fun hero to play around with. Stealing the buffs from your enemies is about the most fun thing you can do. And then next to him, Ren, I was a bit disappointed. I thought because he was running at fast speed and, he was going to be like a little mini costume Finley. But he really isn't. I think he's just lacking, unfortunately. He's not the worst hero in the game, but he's by far not the best either. Now, let's move on to the 3-stars. Now, moving on to Alacia. This hero just has one of the coolest looking cards in the game, and she is a great hero. I would say an S tier hero. There's some good attacking heroes in the nature element, and she is definitely one of them. Nice hit 3, and I like the minion passive bonus as well. Belith, Belith's a good healer, and she dispels. And in the costume version, she gives, I think, immunity to buff dispels, which is unique among the 3-stars. But that heal in the costume over time is really not very much. So I think she falls down just a little bit. But if you need a dispeller, she's there in a pinch. Burden, nah, sorry, mate. Brienne is a fantastic hero. If you've never used the first costume for Brienne against a Titan, I recommend that you level her up right away, because she has got one of the highest defense downs in the game. And it's a bulwark effect defense down, and it's just fantastic because you can use her against 14-star Titans. And she does the job, man. She is staunch. And I love the Toon version as well, because she gets that increase and it becomes undispellable for nature allies. So she makes a really good part of an attacking team. She makes a good part of a Titan team as well. So yeah, for those 2 niches alone, she's an S tier hero. And then Biolf's terrible. Carver is pretty terrible as well. Although there was a time when he did shine a little bit, but that time has come and gone. Next one from this row, I would say, is Faiz, who is an S tier hero. I really like this hero. He's fantastic, and he can be used at the 5-star level to counter Alfrike in rush wars. Having one or two of this guy leveled, and it's not that difficult to max him out. He will really, really help your team. And in the 3-star tournaments, there is no better defensive specialist than Faiz. He's just insanely good. Featherino from the New Owls, I'm not going to give him an S. He's still a bit too new to know, but I'd say A+. He's pretty all right. Fianna, she's a pretty good damage dealer, but I think she is only a single target hero. So yeah, those two I would say probably in a similar sort of vein. I'll give them an A plus each. Because they've yet to impress me, and I have Fianna unleveled on my roster. Maybe I should give her a second look. But I haven't seen her used a lot, and I haven't gone up against her a lot, and that just tells me that she's not quite as good as some of these other guys. So, yeah, unfortunately, they don't make the cut. Friar Tuck doesn't either. Not a huge fan of Friar Tuck. General Yin can be pretty usable in the rush format, but very limited to the rush format alone. So again, I'm not going to put him in the S tier. And then who else do we have? Noma. Nah, mate, sorry. He's running at very fast speed, but he doesn't do a hell of a lot. Goopy's a funny looking hero. I love him, and he can actually deal quite a bit of damage. So you know what? Um, Nah, A plus for Goofy. I can't Goopy. Sorry, I can't do it. Like I just can't do it unless they're super special. They can't be in there. Gramps. Gramps is actually a really good reviver. I think quite a unique skill at the 3-star level. And I think, yeah, I'm going to give Gramps an S tier. I think he's a great hero and a very unique skill. So he can be usable. He can definitely help your team out and help with some survivability. And Greville is an excellent healer. He gives an attack up as well and boosted health. So I would say he's probably an S tier hero for me as well. Who else from this row? Not the Sand family, please. Um, Ishtak's a pretty good one. He gets the defense down in his costume version, so I think that he would be quite usable, but again, not quite S tier. Maybe A plus for Ishtak. And Jing hits like a truck, running at fast speed. He's a pretty good hero as well. So I would say, you know what? If we're gonna give, I would say I would give an S tier to Ishtak and Jing. I think they're really good attacking heroes. Like I said, there are a lot of good attackers in the nature element. Menicius, I'm not a huge fan. Muggy as well. Like I've seen some people like, or people love Muggy, but I hate him. Um, Norrell, he's a pretty good damage dealer again from the Slayers family. So yeah, maybe a A plus for him. Not quite in the S tier with some of these other guys. Roxia from the Magic family, I was quite excited about, but she's trying to give this like increased damage, like a Quinton sort of effect. But at the 3-star level, it really just doesn't work very well. Shrubbear, he's an S tier hero all day long. With that Taunt Ether talent, you know, taking him up against some pretty hardcore teams. He is basically just a massive meat shield at the beginning of the battle, but he gives you that taunt and he gives it to you for 4 turns. And in a rush war, that is all you need to be able to get your 2 tile matches. So Shrub Bear, for his use, is the best in the game at the 3-star level, and he's cheap. So for that reason alone, he's an S tier hero. Waka, I'm not a huge fan of him. I know he's running at fast speed, and he does again. Just a hitter. Yona. Yona's a weird hero. I was actually looking at her a minute ago. I'm not going to put it in the S tier. Honestly can't even remember what she does. It was that lackluster, and it was only like 5 minutes ago I was checking her out. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Yona. Oh yes, it's that random effect that she gives where you don't know whether it's going to be like the reduction in health or the increase in defense. I think just the randomness puts me off, unfortunately. Zariel is a good hero. I mean, obviously we've got a bard at the 3-star level, which is, I mean, all you could really want. And even though the mana boost doesn't really do that much at the 3-star level, she does hit really hard. And for slow speed tournaments, again, she's a pretty awesome damage dealer as well. And then who else do we have? Oh, we can't forget about Little Miss Zarola over here in the corner. She is as far as damage dealers go, I don't think you can do much better at the 3-star level. She's just insane. If you look at challenge event teams where you need to use nature heroes, you're going to see her littered all over the board. You won't see her as much on defense, but on attack you definitely will. and her skill is dependent on certain things, but we can let her off with that because she does hit super hard. So yeah, I do like Zorola. She's an S tier hero from this list every single day of the week. And that is it for the nature heroes. So we have gone over every single nature 3-star and 4-star in the game. And now it is time to reveal the picks for the top 5 rare and the top 5 epic nature heroes in the whole of Empires and Puzzles for 2024. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with the rares, and coming in at number 5, coming in strong, is this amazing looking wench. Alacia is my number 5 pick. She's just an insane hero. She's got the right class. She's a rogue. She's got the great minion passive where she cleanses on minion death. I like the family bonus there for these heroes as well. And look at this, she deals 250% damage to the target and nearby at fast speed, reduces the max health of the target and nearby by 204 over 3 turns, and the effect becomes stronger against boosted health. So she's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, but she is an attacker and she hits hard, and that's what you need at the 3-star level. You just want to kill them as quickly as possible, and Alacia will definitely help you do that. So she makes my number 5 spot. Now, moving on into number 4, it's another attacker, and the one that we just looked at a second ago. Now, there isn't much. You'd be really clutching at straws between these two, except that there is, because Zorola's special does everything the right way round. So she deals 200% damage to the target and nearby, but the less mana the enemies have, the more damage they receive, up to 300%. So she wins out in terms of damage, and if you look at the team power difference, there really isn't a huge amount. 488 versus 486. The attack stat, 547 versus 505. So even though she's hitting for less and she is squishier in terms of the HP, the fact that she's got that, nearly 10% more on the attack stat means that you can basically up these damage stats by about 10%. And in terms of mana, if the enemy's got lower mana, they're just going to get more damage. She has a really good passive as well, but I'm not going to really mention that or dwell on it because it doesn't make that big of a difference at the 3-star level. But she is a fantastic hero. So yeah, I would say Zorola wins out over Alacia in terms of being the best upfront damage dealer at the 3-star level. Now, moving on into 3rd spot, it is Brienne. Surprise, surprise. And the reason for this is just her versatility. So with Brienne, as I've mentioned, her first costume, the defense down against 14-star Titans, she is a viable option until we get 15, 16, 17, 18-star Titans. If they ever decide to do that, then maybe she won't be. But with the introduction of this costume, it gives her that needed boost as well in terms of the costume bonuses. And then in this version, the Toon version, all allies get an increase of 45% attack, an increase of 20% every time they're hit during 5 turns. And get this, for all nature characters, the status effect becomes undispellable and lasts for 2 turns longer. So that means that if you take her up as part of a nature stack, let's say you have 3 heroes next to each other. Let's say you have, in fact, just for argument's sake, let's say you take Brienne, and then you take Zorola and you take Alacia that we've just looked at next to each other. If you fire Brienne off for the following 7 turns, the other 2 heroes, the other 2 hard hitters, are going to get an undispellable attack increase, which can cap out. I think it just keeps going up. I think it's like 100 and I'm not going to go out on a limb and say exactly what it is, but it's absolutely ridiculous because it starts at 45% and it increased by 20% every time they're hit for the following 5 turns. And that becomes 2 turns longer. So within those 7 turns, there's a very high likelihood you're going to be able to get your other attackers off. And she's just an insane hero. Really good support, really good against Titans, so very versatile. And for those reasons, she makes my number 3 spot. Now, at number 2, we have the funny looking shrub bear from the Wonderland family. And I never ever in my life imagined that when this guy was released in Wonderland, I was like, oh my god, he's a taunt hero, but he's running at slow speed. How am I ever going to use him? But with the introduction of the second limit breaks, you can see this is actually my copy of Shrub Bear. Those stats are as beefy as you need for him to be able to survive a hit. And he gets taunt and he gets an increase of 63% defense. Not just defense against special skills, he gets an increase of defense and he gets an increase of defense against special skills. Sorry, guys. So that's very important. A lot of taunt heroes will only get an increased defense or an increased defense against special skills, but this guy gets both, and that is what makes him usable at the 5-star level. And because he's such a superstar in terms of rush, and I can use him, and I can use him against tricky teams where I really don't want to take damage, if I can help it. He makes my number 2 spot. So yeah, don't sleep on him. He's a really good hero. Now moving on to the number 1 hero in the Nature 3 stars, it can be none other than my man FaZe. He's just looking like he doesn't care. He couldn't care less, carrying his vegetables from the field. But he is an insane hero. At the 3-star level, for everything that he does, he is just he's just fantastic, honestly. So let's have a look over what he does. He boosts the health of all allies by 350. That's a big boost at the 3-star level. All allies are then immune to new status ailments for 4 turns, so a fantastic counter for mindless attack heroes like Alfrike in the Rush tournaments or Rush wars, and all allies get an increased defense for 4 turns. Now his passives also trigger, so he can boost health by an extra 10%, which triggers a lot of the time. So it's not just 350 boosted health, it's an extra 10% from the passive, and it's also a cleanse from the passive as well. So if you just got hit by a mindless attack and FaZe just managed to survive, he can cleanse that from your entire team, boost their health, so he counters the max health reduction from Alfrike. And he is a fantastic counter, and an excellent healer. And also, if you put him in on your defense in majority of the 3-star tournaments, if he's second limit breaking, you're going to be coming out with an A grade 99.9% of the time. And that is why FaZe makes my number 1. Now it's time to count down for the epic heroes. So we're going to be starting off with number 5. And coming in hot is Lion String. Now, he is the newest hero. I know he's new. I know we haven't had a massive chance to test him, but I feel like he is going to own this number 5 spot at least, because he's running at very fast speed. He's dealing a bit of damage. I mean, it's a decent amount, but it is minor to the nearby. But he steals healing, and he is the only dodge hero. I think he's going to be a fantastic tank in the tournaments. I think that you pop this guy in a tank, everyone's going to be dodging left, right, and center. They're stealing your healing. They're doing damage. Like, he's firing off every couple of turns, and he resists blind as well. He gives that shared damage to the nearby as well, where 20% of the damage done is shared to the nearby, so it makes him more survivable. I don't know what much more you could want from a 4-star hero, but Lion String, to me, at least now, seems to have enough to make him claim this number 5 spot. Now, moving on to number 4, we have Melindor. Man, oh man, has this guy helped me out and got me out of some sticky situations, and I'm sure it'll be the same for a lot of you as well. He is a staunch healer. Just one of those old school big heals with the dispel that is everything that you want right when you want it. And it's been increased for the Toon version. So the reason I put the Toon version on here is he recovers a 45% health now, which is 3% more than he used to, but it's still a lot. And he gives the defense for 3 turns, and that's an increase of 34% defense for 3 turns. And again, we've got this effect where for all nature characters, the status effect becomes undispellable and it lasts 2 turns longer. So don't sleep on that. Honestly, if you get the toon version of this guy, he's going to be increasing the defense. And if you have him as a part of an attacking team, which you will because he's that good, he's going to give that increase on defense, and it's going to become undispellable for all of your nature characters. So this guy is awesome. And plus he gets that super overpowered toon passive, which we all know and hate. And I love the versatility, honestly, with, like, I know I talked about this a second ago, but Disco Melindor is fantastic. He really is one of the few attack ups in nature. If you don't have Tarlak, he gives a 50% attack increase as well as the dispel, and the heal over time. So yeah, just for his versatility, his usability, his Gandalf ability, he is definitely claimed this number 4 spot. Now moving on to the top 3. So in third place, it could be none other than Franz. Franz is a beast. Like I said, he's just one of those heroes that if you don't have him, you're always chasing him. And I remember how much I wanted him and how much he actually changed the game for me. It was definitely a bit of a hard chase to get him, but it was worth it. I tell you, it was worth it. So it's not about the damage with this guy. It's not about the speed that he does. What it's all about is that all damage the enemies receive is increased by 50% for 6 turns. And on top of that, he gives the enemies immunity to new buffs for 6 turns. So it makes him super usable in Rush Wars. If you've got him and you're just picking out 5 stars to use, I would really encourage you to give Franz a chance in the 5-star heroes, in the 5-star Rush Wars as well. Or in the Rush Wars, what am I talking about? But I know what I'm saying, at least. That's what matters. He's a fantastic hero. No doubt in my mind he deserves this spot. Now, at second place, and I know some of you are going to say you should have come in number 1, but I just couldn't do it. Second place, it is this guy, the Goblin. I mean, not a Goblin, Jesus. The Gargoyle, Kalo. So Kalo is a monster, and he is a monster in the Rush format and primarily in the Rush format. You know what? Like, there is no real other place that I can see Kalo being super useful. I know that, you know, a lot of people do use him in other formats. I've faced him in other formats in the tournaments, but he's just too slow and you can deal with him pretty easily. But when Rush War comes around, he is a monstrous defensive hero. And this card that I've taken is actually from the original release of Kalo. And this guy, I couldn't believe it when he was released. I was like, I grabbed him so quickly. And then they nerfed him into oblivion. But even with the nerf, he's still a pretty good hero. But just look at this. This is what Kalo used to do. So he used to deal 135% damage to all enemies at average speed. If no allies had fallen, he dealt 270 damage to all enemies. So at average speed, a hit of 270% to all enemies was just insane. It was unheard of when Kalo was released. And I was like, are they serious with this guy? But anyways, I grabbed him and I maxed him and I limit broke him, and then I really regretted it. And I had some not very nice words to say to the developers, but they didn't listen, which is not anything unusual. But they really had to nerf this guy because he was just super overpowered like he was. But the main part, as we all know, he casts the special skills of all fallen allies. So especially in Rush Wars, you know, you pair him up with Mother North and a few other heavy hitters. Mother North goes down, you know, your other heavy hitters go down. Kalo's the last man standing. Suddenly he kills the whole entire team because he casts everybody else's specials as his own. And then just, you know, to add insult to injury, he revives a couple of the other guys because he did a Mother North as well. He's just a great hero. Honestly, Kalo definitely deserves this number 2 spot. I know some of you will say he deserves number 1. If he was still in this old version, I would agree with you. But as he is now with his nerfs and everything that have happened, he's still a great hero. He's still number 2 in the nature heroes, but he can't quite take it away from my number 1 spot. And that is, or it goes to, Caedmon. Of course it does. Caedmon, I mean, his toon's been released, and I thought about putting the toon costume as this number 1 spot. But I don't think the Toon can ever quite compete, even with that insane bonus with this version of Cademan. He is just super versatile. He's a dispeller if you need a dispeller. He's a cleanser if you need a cleanser at fast speed. And in this version, if you don't already have him or you don't already know, he deals 275% damage to the target nearby, which is a whopping hit. It's about 5% more than Costume 2 Liju does. And he's got the stats to match it. And the target nearby are immune to new status effect buffs for 3 turns, and he dispels buffs from the target and nearby enemies. So that works the right way round. He dispels the buffs and then makes it so that they can't give themselves any buffs anymore. And he's really, really useful. I guess his only kind of Achilles heel is that he falls pretty hard to counter-attacking heroes. But if they don't have the counter-attack up yet, heroes like Asmia, heroes like Ferrant, for example, heroes like Costume 2 Cyprian, who we saw in the Dark Heroes that we've done just recently, if they don't have their counter-attack and their horrible buffs up yet, he's going to be able to stop them from getting those buffs. And if they miss one fire, it's going to take them a whole mana charge to get right back there. So yeah, I would put in a whole trio of Costume to Cademan if I could. He's just an insanely good hero, and he makes my #1 spot. So that is about it for these heroes. That is it for the nature heroes. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Please do let me know what you think of my picks. And also, like, as I say always, if you think that there's any heroes that should have made the cut, not the ones that are on the list, if they're already in order, they're the top 5. Anybody else that you think outside of the top 5 that definitely should have made the cut, just let me know. And also, in terms of picking the next element, so we've got 2 elements left to go. So we're going to go over the fire heroes and the ice heroes. And interestingly, the last vote, they were exactly equal. There was nothing to pick between them. So if you let me know in the comments whether you'd like to see the next one be the fire heroes, or whether you think the next one should be the ice heroes, just let me know. But until the next time, that is everything for now. So I wish you guys everything of the best. Please do drop us a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Bye for now, guys.